Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
8:07 now on this fourth hour of our 4-hour morning program. Thanks for tuning in. It's O'Connor and Company, and I'm back from vacation. It's Larry O'Connor. Julie Gunlock, well, you took a couple days off, too, for Thanksgiving. It's good to have you back as well. Look at us back together again.
I know.
Right where we belong. Thank you to Andrew Langer and to Hans von Spakovsky and, well, to you, Julie and Patrice, for sort of keeping those boys in line and keeping the trains running on time while I was gone. Always nice to get a nice refresh and a rejuvenation, and now we're back to work, damn it.
Yes.
And we're good to go. Coming up in 30 minutes, Scott Jennings, CNN contributor, now author of the new book, A Revolution of Common Sense. He will join us in 30 minutes. Right now, though, we're joined by a friend of the program and a great American, the former U.S. Capitol Police Chief, Stephen Sund. Talk about all things law enforcement here in the nation's capital. Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas to you, Steve.
Likewise to you, Larry and Julie. Thank you for having me on.
You know, your long career encompassed, of course, your time at the Capitol Police, but also as Metropolitan Police Officer here in Washington, D.C. So you're familiar with the interaction between all the various agencies. And I'd love for you to take a moment to just sort of reflect on what we've seen over the last couple of months with the deployment of the National Guard and federal law enforcement cooperating with the local agencies, and specifically about the loss of this National Guardswoman from West Virginia and her fellow guardsman who is now clinging to life, about what the National Guard was doing, will be doing, and the tragedy of how they were targeted here.
Absolutely happy to. I've deployed with the National Guard as early as the 1990s, 91, 92, 93. It was not unusual at all for them to be part of the federal team when we were trying to go out and fight some of the big crack epidemic in the early 1990s. I'd deploy into Anacostia, Ridge Road, 58th and Blaine. I'm just trying to think of some of the fine areas where the National Guard would come out, and we'd be with the National Guard. They'd do what we called lighting missions, where we could light up neighborhoods because all the kids had, shot out the street lights. So the neighborhood kids could come out and play, and we'd do crime suppression. So there's a long history. You have 36 law enforcement agencies in Washington, D.C. That all work very well together, from the FBI, DA, ATF, you name it. And the National Guard play a key role. They'd come in, they'd do missions. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, when you hear members of the House and the Senate do this national ad suggesting that these guardsmen may be following unlawful orders and basically threatening them, that's what's going on here. They're not just saying disobey orders. What they're saying is, if you don't disobey orders, then when we're back in charge, we're going to call you in and we may try you for war crimes.
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a rift within the Army, within the military units, and create some type of doubt in the military members' minds. And that's the last thing they need, especially when they're out on the streets or out in the theater fighting. They need to be prepared. And I just think that's terrible what they're doing. They're just creating further division within the country.
What do you think that sort of chatter is among the rank and file of the National Guard as they watch this, as they hear this? Do you think it worries them? Are they filled with doubt? Are they still what do you think the conversation is like? Again, not just among the rank and file, but the commanders.
Oh, well, I can tell you. Let's talk about rank and file. I just talked to a mother of a National Guard soldier who was telling me that some of the National Guard are sitting there talking about, well, wow, could you imagine if they try and press charges against us later on if there's a change in the administration? They're talking about, thinking that these people can come after them, like you're hearing some of the governors of some of the states talk about going after ICE agents, things like that. So you're hearing that within the National Guard. That's absolutely terrible to think that that's going around. As far as some of the leadership, I'm not sure. I hope the leadership is out there talking about, how to address this, how to handle it. The idea of, not having to follow unlawful orders, that's probably being taught to members when they come through the academy the very first time. But having members of Congress, 6 members of Congress, come out and say that, again, I think it's just creating doubt and creating division.
We're speaking with Stephen Sund. He's the former chief of the Capitol Police. Of course, he stepped down from his position after the events of January 6th. And that because of that, Chief, I wanted to get your reflections on the long, storied career of Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, who has now announced that she will not be running for re-election. And I know that you have a long history of engagement with the former Speaker.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a phone call from her. We'll see if that ever happens. It won't. You know, she does have a long history up on Congress. I think it's time. I think she's been up there probably way too long. But it's not like she's walking away just with her government salary and her civil service support. You know, whatever it is, she walks away. She's walking away with quite a bit of money. And I always try and wonder, you know, when we're out there working, and she's the highest paid person in Congress. I think she was paid probably about $224 when I was there, $224,000. That's a big change from several tens of millions of dollars. So I don't think she's going without, you know, a good purse. But you know, I'm not.
Well, her husband had an uncanny ability to pick stocks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right about that. Yeah. But one thing I want to mention, just right before the break, I heard you and Julie talking about the guy in Fairfax, Jamal Wally, 36 years old. Before the shooting, he was blaming both the police and the government for all of his problems. But it's interesting. You got Jamal Wally, 36. You got the guy from Oklahoma. He's 27 years old. And you've got this guy, 29 years old. They all are very similar in age, all ripe for radicalization, but all brought over under that same program. And think about it. The guy that shot Sarah Beckstrom and killed her, you know, that was an assassination. He came over just days after that failed withdrawal from Kabul and that the bombing on August 26th that you talked about that killed 13 service members.
Abbey Gate.
Yeah, it's an uncanny a combination of coincidences, isn't it? But and again, which re-emphasizes President Trump's call to have an evaluation of everybody who was brought in under those programs, which apparently is controversial. Chief Son, which sounds to me like that's basic, you know, logical safety protocols, considering what we know. It's like if you don't learn from what's going on right in front of you, then you're an ignorant fool.
100%. They should have been doing that a long time ago. They should have gone through proper vetting when they came over, and there should have been some type of remaining contact with these people to make sure they're assimilating.
Yes.
Chief Son, real fast, the president has now called for additional National Guard here in Washington, D.C., and we have seen a bit of an uptick in crime here, I think partly because the district council refuses to reinforce the curfew that was put in place over the summer. As you observe from on the other side of the Potomac, but you do love Washington, and it was where you've spent your entire career. What else needs to be done here? What else could be done to sort of make this permanent? Because as good as it is to have the National Guard and federal law enforcement officers cooperating with local law enforcement, that's not a permanent solution. What's the permanent solution?
Correct. So, and again, as we approach the holiday seasons, crimes always begin to rise. So that's something you may see. But I think a permanent solution is, again, getting rid of some of these draconian anti-police legislation, getting proper leadership both within the law enforcement agency and within the city council, because that's driving officers to other agencies. And then let's get the Washington, D.C. Police Department up to proper staffing. I think they're around 3,100, 3,200 right now. They're supposed to be at 3,900. Hire the right cops. When I hear from police officers about this whole federal surge, was they are finally allowed to do their job. Allow the cops to do their job, you're going to see crime go down. Allow the judges to put people in jail and hold them accountable, you're going to see crime go down. That's what has to occur.
All right, we'll leave it there. Always good to talk with you. Hope you're having a great holiday season. Enjoy your Christmas. Steve Son, former Chief of Police.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you both.